11th start here at Torrey Pines. How does it feel to be back?
Yeah, obviously always feels good to be back here. It's one of my favorite venues on tour. Certainly South Course, one of my favorite golf courses in the world. And I guess extra special, after playing so well last year and being defending champion. So, this really in earnest gets my PGA Tour season up and running. I have played one event, the HSBC Champions in China, but in earnest, this, like I said, feels like the start of my year.
And I know we have a lot of golf left, but it's hard to believe it's already been 4 years since your gold at the Rio Olympics. How much is that on your mind as we approach Tokyo?
Yeah, that's definitely sort of become a talking point. Last week I was in Singapore, and that event was sponsored by a Japanese company, and they had, obviously with Tokyo coming around, they were keen on having the medalists there. So myself, Cooch, and Henrik Stenson went down to play, and so having the three of us together created a little bit of talk about it all. And yeah, it's been a wonderful 3.5 years to this point, and it's been, definitely one of the highlights of my career and something I'm very keen to try and defend. And I think Tokyo is going to be a wonderful host city. Obviously Japan's a great golfing nation, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of excitement. And from what I can tell, I think it's going to be well attended and well supported by the players.
Perfect. We'll open it up for questions. Please use the mic if you have a question. Doug, in the back.
People what about Britain?
Yeah,
to make sure you're there.
No, I hear.
Did you get all that?
What Doug was actually saying is that, the US team's an incredibly difficult team to make. Obviously, I think Tiger would be last guy in, maybe at 7 in the world, possibly, I'm thinking. So that certainly is a really tough team to make. That's what Cooch was talking about last week in Singapore, that, he'd obviously love to be back, but it's probably the hardest team in the world to make, and myself included. Team GB is a really strong team. Right now I'm number 8, I think. Tommy's right there, number 9 or 10. Paul Casey's right outside the 15. So, for me, the 15 is the key cutoff mark. Obviously, I'm trying to look at the world rankings and go up. I had a little sort of slip towards to the end of last year, but having been number 1 in the world, hopefully I'm looking north, not south. But 15 is the key number. If you're in the top 15, I don't feel, from a Team GB point of view, you'd be unlucky to be in the top 15 and not go to to Tokyo. But yeah, you're right. Casey's right there. Fitzpatrick's knocking on the door. So it would be fantastic if we could field 4 guys.
Rex, then Jeff.
Rosie, I think you talked. I think you talked last year about maybe switching up your schedule a little bit based on the new PGA. Are there any changes you can plan on making this year to maybe adjust?
Obviously, I think I've just accepted the fact that the majors do come around thick and fast, and you just got to be ready for that block of golf. I think it's very difficult to peak valley to try to, which is what I've tried to do for majors in the past. I think you now need to just try and give yourself the overall reserves that you can just push through major season and try to keep your game at a high level all weeks, and hopefully you hit at the right time. That now includes the Olympics. I was looking at the schedule. I'd probably be flying out to Tokyo the Wednesday/Thursday after the Open Championship. So really there's not much time to breathe, I suppose. A couple of days at home, and then, you're off again.
Figure out a way to get them back.
So yeah, I've made some changes. Some tournaments have to take a hit because of that. And I'm just trying to, this year the biggest change I'm making is how I operate at home. I'm trying to really make every day count at home. I'm not just having, I've got a week off at home, let's just go with the flow and go with the wind. I'm trying to really structure my days at home to give myself, 1, the appropriate amount of work that I need to get done to perform, but then 2, enough quality family time as well. So, I felt like last year was a bit of a tricky year where I always felt like I was trying to play catch up on the road. And practice too much on tour and try to fix things Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. So this year I'm just trying to take care of my weeks off, really, so that I can get to tournaments and actually have easier weeks on the road, which will hopefully keep me fresher.
Take one in the back, then Jeff. Go ahead.
You mentioned a bit of a slip from last year. Last year when you were here, you came here as the #1 player in the world. You won. This year, I think you're number 8. Last year,
Yeah.
when you shot to the top.
You know, I got into bad habits last year. I swung the club poorly. I took a month off after this tournament, and that was essentially my off season. Didn't do a ton of work because it was my off season. I felt like the decision behind that was to be fresh for the majors. It just didn't play out very well. Didn't work out very well. So I was kind of learning on the fly last year about how to approach the new schedule, and it just didn't work. And I kind of paid for it a little bit. I felt like all season long. So, but like I said, I just didn't like the way I was swinging the club. I actually think it was a brilliant year. The way I look back at it, my statistics, ball striking wise, dropped off, but I putted great. I competed well. I felt like I had a chance to win the U.S. Open. I was in the second last group in the Open Championship, and with not having much game, I really felt like I competed well. And so yeah, just if I, which I have done, I'm beginning to feel really comfortable with my game again. So if I can kind of keep that level of competitiveness going and just up a couple areas of my game, then I should have another great year.
Jeff, then Sean.
Just continuing on that topic, when during the year do you kind of sit down with your team and look back at what went on? And then just more specifically, what are the things, you mentioned ball striking, what are the stats, what are the things you really value in your assessment of a season?
Yeah, I think if I look back at it, I think it goes back to 2016 when I had a pretty bad back injury, and we changed some mechanics in my swing to alleviate some of the back issues, and then the cure became the cancer in a way. I just overdid certain things, and then all of a sudden I found myself trying to do the same feels that worked there for a while, but then I kind of went back through my iPhone and I time-stamped. Well, I looked back at when I thought I hit it the best and when I liked my swing the best, and it was about 6 months to a year into the process of making the changes, and then you could start to see the overreaction to the changes about 6 to 8 months after that. So I've kind of, December 17 is where I settled on as, okay, that's kind of where I think it was at its best, and where I want to get back to. So just, so that was it was really an interesting scenario because I was doing it independently to Sean. Sean was spending the off season going through all of his videos and just trying to figure it all out, and we kind of came to a pretty similar conclusion, which was great. I think getting the ball in play off the tee, that's definitely swing related for sure. That dropped off a few percent, but everything is so close. Still pretty good approach to the green. My short game dropped off a little bit last year, but that's what I'm talking about, doing my work at home, because I felt like I was pushing so much workload on tour that bunker play and chipping is always the last thing to get done. And if you're working on your game, you have to putt. But if you're working on your game hard as well at tournaments, chipping, putting can often get forgotten about. And so I saw a drop off in that for that reason. So just trying to make those minor adjustments this year.
Sean, then Bob.
It's been a little while now where Tiger's been working as his own coach or coaching himself. How do you think that decision has contributed to his success in the past couple of years?
Tiger, did you say?
Yeah, in coaching himself versus going with another coach.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic when you have ownership of your own golf swing, and he's had a few coaches through the years, and he's reinvented his swing a couple of times, and I think right now he's accepted where he's at and what he's capable of, and that, physically, and I think he's playing within himself, and he's got a set of moves that work really well. I don't quite know what he works on, but you can tell the backswing is kind of like that slightly inside feel, and then he feels like the club works slightly out on the way down. I don't know what he feels with that, but it looks the same every week. And when he actually makes the swing with an iron, it looks the purest swing. I think his swing looks as good as it ever has. So, he definitely is clear on what he's trying to do. And no matter who you are and whether you're working with a coach or not, clarity is really, really important. So, but yeah, I think I've learned so much through the years. I love having Sean around as a sounding board, and we work so well together. But and that's how we work at our best. I teach him as much as he teaches me in the way we work together. So it's just a good sounding board and a great relationship.
Take a couple more, right?
Justin, just to follow up to that with Tiger, the wear and tear factor, you talked about your own back injury. When you stood out there last year and saw what he did to reinvent himself after those 4 major back surgeries and not able to stand up and walk and much less practice, how amazed are the guys at what he accomplished? Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think the resilience that he's shown is incredible and remarkable, and a huge testament to him. I've been through a pretty bad back injury that's not all that well documented, but I knew how hard it is to come back from, and I know how debilitating it can feel and be. So, to have that multiple times in your career is quite something. And, not only did it lead to physically not being able to play, but I think mentally as well. Like the short game disappeared, and there were a lot of other problems that just manifested with injury. And that's happened to a lot of players. A lot of times a player gets injured. Physically you go, and then the mental side goes with it for a lot of people. So, and I think it even happened to him for a short period of time there. And to come back from that, every credit. I think I think everyone was willing and wanting it to happen, and maybe not many thought that it would happen. But now he's back to where he is. He looks very comfortable. He looks in control, and it looks like it's certainly here to stay. It's great.
Bob?
Justin, you've been out here for a good part of his career. Can you wrap your arms around the idea of 83 wins? I mean, we expect him to get that at some point, but I mean, just the enormity of it, is it almost underrated in how impressive?
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to think the depth on tour is getting stronger and stronger and stronger as well, So maybe it's harder to rack up 7, 8, 9, 10 a year, but still, it's 8.3 is pretty good. Yeah, it's a number I can't quite get my head around. I was pretty excited to get to double digits. So it's a long way north of that. So yeah, it's impressive.
Rob?
Justin, it's also a Ryder Cup year. When and where does that enter the radar? And does it seem like quote-unquote big events are coming at you all the time now with Olympics and expenses?
Yeah, for sure. I think that Ryder Cup enters the radar, provided you're on course to make the team and you're having a decent year and you're not chasing points. It only really sort of hits the radar post FedEx Cup, and I think there's now 2 or 3 weeks between East Lake and the Ryder Cup, which I think is a huge advantage for the U.S. team from years past, actually, because coming right off the back of, obviously there's quite a few European guys who do play FedEx Cup as well, but a lot of guys are tired at that time of year, so that 2 or 3 week break might kind of really freshen everybody up nicely going into the Ryder Cup.
Sean?
There's ways now to measure things that used to be impossible, like force plates or 3D motion capture. Do you use any of those things, and kind of what role do they serve in your training and practice?
Yeah, well, Sean Foley's lost his TrackMan about a month ago, and I think he's not missing it at all, which is kind of cool. I think he feels a lot of the things that he believed when he was 24 are coming back into play for him. I think you can get very distracted sometimes with so much of the theory. Saying that 3D has been pivotal in terms of measuring things for me, in terms of how my joints move when it comes to trying to work around an injury or understand why an injury has happened. There's definitely, when you see things measured three-dimensionally with the data that comes out of it, it doesn't translate to what you see through an iPhone when you're filming your swing. So I think 3D is the one thing that I will implement in my game. I think force plates and TrackMan and swing path and all of that stuff, I'm less inclined to be using at the moment.
Is there a specific example of something that the 3D revealed that you wouldn't have otherwise seen or been able to change?
Yeah, in terms of how much the relationship with my pelvis, basically, how much I feel like I need to get my left side feeling high through the ball, whereas I get a bit of a low pelvis, and when I get a low pelvis, my ribs tend to kind of go too far forward, and then the reaction to that is a very quick move, which can compress discs and things like that. So it's just, yeah, when you turn into a stick man and you see basically the relationship between the spine and the pelvis, it just was really interesting to me how much I had to feel something in order to make the correct move. And there's biofeedback as well. You know, you can have it where if you do it correctly, a sound comes on. That's a very helpful learning tool.
Take the last two with Doug and Jeff.
And two kind of Ryder Cup related questions. A, do you even pay attention to the President's Cup as a member of Team Europe?
Not normally.
Did you this year?
I did this year, yeah.
Why?
I thought it was quite compelling, actually. I think that, one, I enjoyed watching Royal Melbourne. I think it's such an incredible golf course, and every shot, you could tell the guys had to be on point. And, you know, I thought Tiger was amazing from that point of view as well. Just, you know, in terms of being a tactician on a golf course, I really enjoyed watching how he went about playing Royal Melbourne. And it was good to see the internationals give you guys a run for your money. Yeah. I enjoyed watching that.
I know what you mean.
Sorry?
I didn't play that week, but I know what you mean. But I mean, do you watch with your Ryder Cup hat on? Do you watch with your Ryder Cup hat on, like the U.S. team, and think?
I mean, I know. I'll just wait for a second. I mean, I know all the guys so well. I watch as a competitor. You know, I watch as it's interesting to who makes the putts down the stretch, who makes the putts under pressure. So, you know, it's like watching golf. The only time I watch golf is maybe the last 4 holes on a Sunday, is because that's when I can learn something about the guys I go up against. But in match play, I think there's always that added element that each hole, each putt is a putt that wins a tournament. You know, it's binary. It's in or it's not. You win or you lose. You know, and that's not just at the end of a tournament, but that's hole by hole. So it's kind of cool to see how guys handle pressure for sure. And you know, with one eye, you're looking at pairings and who's comfortable together, and you know what you may see in the future for sure.
Okay, I've talked enough. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Last question with Jeff.
Justin, you have it hurt the rest of your game?
Well, I think, yeah, I definitely had a Project 300 in play in that, you know, sort of 2015, 2016, and although it didn't hurt my game, maybe it did hurt my body. And I think I paid for it, actually, a little bit with 2016. The back wasn't that great, so I've had to learn to go about it a slightly different way. But, you know, I look at it now in terms of, I look at Roger Federer. You know, there's guys who serve at 135, but he serves at 121 in the corners. You know, and he's at the back end of his career, so, and it's incredibly effective. So, you know, yeah, I'm not going to be a 185 ball speed guy, and if I chase that, that is going to hurt me, and it's going to hurt my swing and body, because you've got to reabsorb that force. But I can serve at 121 in the corners is kind of where I'm at. You know, and for me, that's like 172 to 175 ball speed. I carry the ball 300. If I can carry it 300 in the air, I can compete on any golf course against any player. So that's kind of my benchmark.
All right. Thank you for your time and good luck this week.
Cool. Thank you.